Right. So picture this. You've stumbled upon this secret formula, right? But it's not for some crazy potion or anything. It's for like unlocking your potential, like in work and in your personal life.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at today, this whole MOD philosophy.
Yeah.
Master of personal excellence.
All
It's
right.
like Lean Six Sigma,
Okay.
but for your life.
Gotcha.
We've got Igor Gowski's book right here. I'm a MOD.
Right.
We're going to crack it open.
Yeah, and you know what's so cool about this book is that it doesn't bog you down with all this theory.
Right.
It's real stories and things you can actually use. Like from Igor's own life. You know, he was a process engineer, and he saw there was this gap between these powerful tools and how we actually grow as people.
That's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right?
Yeah.
We're not just like summarizing the book.
Yeah.
We're going to pull out the stuff that can actually help you become a MOD.
Yes, become more efficient, more effective, and happier with everything you do.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
How did this whole MOD thing even start? I mean, this guy's a process engineer,
Yeah.
deep into Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah.
What made him go into personal development?
So if you think about the way Lean Six Sigma training usually goes, it's very top-down.
Yeah.
Rigid, very impersonal almost. And Igor was seeing this wasn't really working for people.
Right.
It felt forced, like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
I think I see where this is going.
Yeah.
So he realized that for people to really use these principles, it had to be less about rules.
Yes.
And more about empowering each person, right?
Absolutely. He saw that real excellence that comes from within, from people understanding their own value and making choices about how they spend their time and energy.
Right.
That's the core of MOD.
And that's a huge shift, right?
It is.
It's not about moving up the corporate ladder or chasing some definition of success someone else made.
Yeah.
It's about growing personally, no matter where you are in life.
Exactly. It's a whole new mindset, and it can affect every part of your life, your relationships, your career, even how you do the little things.
All right, so the book digs into this idea of the golden five.
Yeah.
Time, effect, delta, supplier,
Okay.
and feedback.
Right.
These are like the 5 pillars of MOD, right?
Yeah.
This is how you master your own life.
And I think it's super important to start with time, because it's the one thing we all have the same amount of,
Okay.
but we waste it so much without realizing it.
Yeah. It's easy to be busy, but not really get anything done.
Right.
Just going through the motions without thinking about where our time is going.
And that's where MOD makes us be more intentional. It makes us see time as an investment, not something to just throw away.
So it's not about becoming a time management freak.
No.
It's more about knowing what really matters to you and doing things that support those values, right?
Exactly. And that takes us to effect. It's about understanding the impact of what we do, both the good and the bad.
I think this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about what we gain. It's realizing that everything we do has a ripple effect.
Uh-huh.
It affects those around us, our communities, even the world.
It does.
It's about taking responsibility for those effects and trying to make positive ripples even in the smallest things.
Yes.
Okay, so I have to admit, when I first saw Delta, my brain did a little twist.
I can imagine. It's where MOD gets really practical.
Yeah.
And for some people, a bit tough.
Because it's about facing that gap between what you expect and what you actually get right.
Yes.
Aiming for Delta equals 0, meaning you always meet or go beyond what's expected.
That's right. And this applies to everything from work projects to personal relationships.
Now, I can already hear people saying, wait a minute, isn't it always good to exceed expectations?
Uh-huh.
But the book kind of challenges that idea, doesn't it?
It does, because sometimes always going above and beyond leads to burnout. You get resentful, or people start expecting too much from you.
Okay.
MOD encourages us to find a good balance, where we're meeting the right expectations in a way that we can keep up and that makes us feel good.
That's important because it's about choosing where we put our energy.
Yes.
Where Delta equals 0 really matters.
Right.
And where a little flexibility might be good.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about supplier.
Okay.
When I first read this, I was like, wait, am I running a business here?
Right.
But then it clicked. We're all part of these interconnected systems.
Right? We are. Think of yourself like a mini company. Who are your suppliers? Anyone who gives you resources, information, support materials, even emotional encouragement.
So we're talking about colleagues, mentors, friends, family, even that online group that inspires you.
Exactly. MOD encourages us to look at these relationships, to see if they're really helping us reach our goals or maybe holding us back in some way.
So it's not about cutting people out.
Oh.
It's about understanding what they bring to the table.
Yeah.
And making sure those relationships fit with your own vision.
And just like a business carefully chooses its suppliers,
Okay.
we can be more thoughtful about building relationships that help us grow and support us.
Now, we can't talk about the MOD Golding Five without talking about feedback.
Right.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
It is. It's about the value we get back for what we put in.
And it's not always stuff like money or recognition.
No.
Feedback can be a feeling of accomplishment, a closer connection with others, or just the joy of doing something you love.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. MOD encourages us to really figure out what kind of feedback means the most to us.
Absolutely. Because we all have different values. Different things that motivate us. What really satisfies one person might leave another feeling empty.
So it's about understanding what drives you.
Yeah.
What makes you feel valued and appreciated.
Yes.
And doing things that line up with those desires.
It's about creating this feedback loop that keeps you passionate and moving forward on your own path to excellence.
Now, this isn't just some theory. The book is full of stories about how these principles work in real life.
Right.
There's this one story that really stuck with me about an employee who breaks company policy to help a colleague.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been easier to just follow the rules, but...
He decided to put the human element first, the relationship. Even though it meant bending the rules, that act of kindness gave him a much deeper sense of satisfaction, and it made their bond stronger.
That's what I love about MOD.
Yeah.
It's not about being a rule follower.
Right.
It's about realizing that sometimes the most valuable feedback, the deepest feeling of fulfillment, comes from those small acts of courage and compassion.
It's about trusting our gut, knowing what truly matters, and making choices that match our values, even if it means going against the norm.
Okay, so we've laid out the basics of MOD, those golden 5 principles.
Right.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It is.
There's so much more to explore. Like, how does all this tie back to Lean Six Sigma?
Well, that's where this book really shines.
Yeah.
Because it takes these complex tools and ideas and makes them easy to understand and use in everyday life.
So it's like Lean Six Sigma for the soul.
I love that. Because it's not just about making things better in a factory or an office.
Right.
It's about making our own lives better, our relationships, our personal growth.
And that's what we're going to dig into in the next part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
We'll uncover how MOD helps you become a problem-solving ninja, a master of efficiency, and ultimately the architect of your own fulfilling life.
I'm excited. And you know what's cool about MOD? It kind of changes how we see problems.
Yeah.
Most of us, we see problems as like roadblocks, right? Things to avoid.
Right.
But MOD says we should look at them as opportunities, like a chance to practice our problem-solving skills and find creative solutions.
Hold on. So you're saying look for overall problems.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of backwards? I mean, who wants more problems?
Well, think about it. When things are going smoothly, are we really challenged to grow?
Okay.
Not really. It's when things get tough, when there are unexpected hiccups. That's when we learn the best lessons.
Like that saying, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor.
Exactly. It's those rough waters that make us adapt and learn new skills and in the end become stronger.
So MOD is all about embracing challenges, knowing that finding solutions is where the real growth is.
Yes. And that's where those Lean Six Sigma tools come in, but in a more personal way.
All right, so let's talk about those tools.
Okay.
The book mentions Gemba, which I think is Japanese for the real place.
Right.
But how does that apply to personal development?
Okay, so let's say you're struggling with a habit, like procrastinating.
Right.
Instead of just thinking about why you procrastinate, MOD says, go to the Gemba, the actual place where it happens.
So for procrastination, that might be your desk, your computer, or even that spot on the couch where you end up scrolling through social media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By watching yourself in that real-world setting,
Yeah.
you start to see patterns, triggers, and potential solutions that you wouldn't have seen just by thinking about it.
So it's like you become a detective of your own habits.
Yes.
Gathering clues and evidence that can lead to breakthroughs.
An MOD gives you a structure for that investigation.
Okay.
A set of tools for analyzing what you observe at the Gemba and turning it into actionable insights.
The book also talks about SIPOC, which stands for Suppliers Inputs, Process Outputs, Customers.
Sounds very corporate.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that apply to, say, improving a personal relationship?
Let's break it down.
Yeah.
Imagine a relationship that's a bit strained.
Yeah.
Your suppliers could be things like communication patterns, shared experiences,
Right.
even the values each person brings to the relationship. The inputs could be the time you spend together, the emotional energy you share,
Yeah.
the things you do to support each other.
Okay, so the process would be how you interact, how you handle disagreements, how you celebrate the good times,
Exactly.
and the outputs would be the feelings, the connection, the
Yeah.
memories you make together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your customer, in this case, what could be the relationship itself?
Okay.
The happiness you both get from it, the vision you have for the future.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But by mapping it out that way, you can start to see those problem areas, the places where the flow of value is getting blocked.
Exactly. And just like in a factory, you can start to improve those areas, streamline your interactions, and make sure the outputs align with what you want from the relationship, which in this case is a healthy, fulfilling connection.
Yes.
Now, we talked about MOD being proactive, about anticipating problems before they happen. The book emphasizes setting clear expectations. But how do we do that in a way that avoids those misunderstandings and frustrations later on?
It all starts with good communication, both with yourself and with others. Ask yourself, what are my goals? What are my non-negotiables? What am I willing to compromise on?
So you got to be really clear about those things for yourself first,
Yes.
before you even try to tell other people.
Exactly. Because if you're not sure what you want, how can you expect anyone else to understand?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And once you have that clarity for yourself.
Then you can start talking to others about your expectations
Right.
in a way that's respectful but also assertive.
But it's not just about talking, right? It's also about measuring,
Yes.
about having some way to see if you're making progress
Yeah,
and if your actions are actually getting you the results you want.
And this isn't just about numbers and charts. It's about regularly checking in with yourself, with the people involved, and asking those important questions.
Like, are we on the right track?
Yes.
Are we doing things that match our goals? What needs to change?
Exactly. It's about creating that feedback loop that helps you adjust course as you go along.
Okay.
Instead of just hoping for the best.
Now, speaking of course correction, one of the coolest parts of MOD is this idea of root cause analysis. It's about going beyond the surface and really figuring out the underlying reason for a problem.
It's like being a detective.
Yeah.
But instead of solving a crime, you're solving those recurring frustrations, those patterns that keep tripping you up.
The book talks about the 5 whys technique.
Right.
Can you give us an example of how that works in real life?
Sure. Let's say you're constantly feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
Okay.
You might ask yourself, why am I feeling stressed? Maybe the answer is because I have too much on my plate. But instead of stopping there, you keep asking, why? Why do I have too much on my plate? Maybe it's because you're not delegating. Well, why am I not delegating?
Okay.
Maybe you're afraid of losing control, or you don't trust others to do the job. Right.
Wow. So by asking why, over and over again, you're peeling back the layers
Yes.
and getting to the core of the problem.
Right. Which in this case might be a lack of trust or a fear of letting go.
And once you've found that root cause,
Then you can start addressing it directly.
Right.
Instead of just trying to manage the symptoms of stress.
this is where MOD gets really powerful because it shifts us from reacting to being proactive.
Exactly.
Instead of just putting out fires, we're preventing them from starting in the first place.
And that's where standards come in, those clear, repeatable processes that make things consistent and reduce stress.
Okay, so we're not talking about some rigid set of rules everyone has to follow.
No.
It's more about creating systems that work for you,
Exactly.
that support your own goals and values.
It's about taking charge of your processes, figuring out what works best for you, and creating those standards that help you consistently achieve what you want.
So whether it's a streamlined morning routine, a good communication strategy, or a good work-life balance.
Yes.
And that brings us to another key part of MOD, which is this whole idea of always getting better. It's not about like reaching some perfect state and then just stopping there.
Right.
You know?
Not at all. MOD is more like a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about always trying to get a little bit better each day. Whether it's making a process smoother, understanding yourself better, or strengthening a relationship.
So it's like that growth mindset we hear so much about,
Yeah.
but with actual tools to put it into practice.
Exactly. It's not just thinking positive thoughts. It's having a system to find things you can improve and taking real steps to make those improvements happen.
And what's great about MOD is it's not just about you growing individually.
Right.
It's about everyone growing together.
Yeah.
The book talks about how these ideas can be used in leadership, in teams, even in whole companies.
That's true. Imagine a leader who really lives by the MOD principles.
Yeah.
They lead by example. They're open to feedback. They give their team the power to take charge and strive for excellence. That's how you get amazing
It
results.
creates this ripple effect, right?
It
Where
does.
that MOD thinking spreads throughout the whole company,
Yeah.
and it builds a culture of always getting better, working together, and coming up with new ideas.
And that leads to things getting done more efficiently, better quality, and everyone feeling more fulfilled.
I know some people might be thinking, okay, this sounds good in theory, but what about those real-life problems, The pushback, the setbacks, those times when you just want to give up?
Yeah, those moments happen to everyone.
Right.
Change is tough. Growing can be messy. But MOD gives you a way to handle those challenges,
Okay.
to stay focused on the big picture even when things get hard.
The book talks about how important it is to have a support system.
Yes.
Those people who encourage you, challenge you, and keep you accountable.
Those relationships are so important. Whether it's a mentor, a coach, a good friend, or a supportive group, having those people in your corner can make a world of difference.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about MOD being for everyone, not
Yes.
just those people who are already super successful or organized.
I really believe that MOD is about meeting you where you are, helping you figure out your strengths and values, and then creating a path to excellence that fits your specific needs and goals.
It's not about squeezing yourself into some mold someone else made.
Right.
It's about creating your own mold,
Yes,
one that reflects who you truly are
exactly.
and helps you live a life that's both meaningful and impactful.
It is.
And that's a journey worth taking. So for those listening who are ready to jump into this MOD philosophy, Igor Rogowski's book, I'm a MOD, is an amazing place to start.
It is.
It's practical, it's inspiring, and it's a roadmap for transforming yourself both personally and professionally.
It's a book that can really change your life.
And remember, this is just the beginning. We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Try out the tools and find what works best for you on your own journey to excellence.
Have fun moding.
And that's it for this deep dive into the MOD philosophy. We hope you found it insightful, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into a new topic.